Clinton. But secondarily, 2 Republican governors, 2-term, getting re-elected in states that are heavily Democratic. I think there's a lot here in the Libertarian ticket. I think we're reflective of most Americans, which, speaking with a broad brushstroke, is being fiscally conservative and socially tolerant, liberal, whatever, as long as you don't force it on me. And a big unoccupied space, too, is nobody is standing up and saying, let's stop dropping bombs. Let's stop with the military interventions, that they're having the unintended consequence of making things worse, not better. There's no peace candidate. Gillespie. What is the worst aspect of a potential Trump presidency, and what is the worst aspect of a potential Clinton presidency? Weld. I'll start with Trump. I don't think that Mr. Trump has made a great study of the issues. I'm not sure he's read deeply in history as it might apply to current political decisions. So I see a shallowness in his performance. There's just a few words. There's a lot of sentences that don't end. And his proposals run right into international agreements and the U.S. Constitution. Gillespie. Isn't that what people want? They want to restrict immigration. They want to restrict Syrians or Arabs or Muslims. Johnson. Having campaigned in New Hampshire and having been in the Midwest, what I have recognized is that 30% of Republican voters believe the scourge of the earth is Mexican immigration. It was my voice in 2012 that said, no, that's not the case, but I know that that group exists. When things are bad, you look for a scapegoat. In this case, they're taking jobs that U.S. citizens could have. Well, no, they're not. They're not murderers and rapists. And the notion of rounding up 11 million undocumented workers, how's that going to work out in New Mexico, where 50% of the population is Hispanic? The federal government's going to start knocking on doors? Weld. The other thing is the rule of law in the Constitution. We pride ourselves on the rule of law in this country, not only socially and in terms of our government, but also our economy, both domestic and foreign. Mr. Trump has suggested he would slap on a 45% tariff on Chinese goods, 35% tariff on Mexican goods, build a huge wall and make the Mexicans pay for it. Any number of things that would violate his duties under the Constitution. Gillespie. You talk about protectionism. Hillary Clinton is talking down the North American Free Trade Agreement. She started doing that in 2008. Weld. We're the only free trade ticket out there. We're the only ones. Gillespie. Say something negative about Hillary Clinton. You are friendly with her, and you like her as a person, but... Weld. Oh, I'm old friends with both Clintons, but at election time, at the end of the day, there are no friends, okay? The first thing I would say is the fiscal situation. I think it's something she truly believes, that she would like to raise the amount of social spending, raise the amount of government spending, called investment on the Democratic side of the aisle. And I think that would be bad for the economy. It would hollow out the economy. When President Obama leaves office, the national debt is going to be $20 trillion, doubled since not so long ago. You can't go on like that. It's all in the wrong direction. We're small government people. We cut taxes. We shrank government. The Democrats would go the other direction. Gillespie. The federal government is spending about $4 trillion a year. In the first budget that is signed by a Johnson-Weld administration, how much are you going to spend, and where do you take it from there? Johnson. Well, we're going to come out of the chute proposing a balanced budget, which would in fact target a 20% reduction. Weld. It's not a bad goal, I've been around government a long time for my sins, and I think between 10 and 20% of most budgets are overspent. People in Washington particularly do not understand there is no such thing as government money. There's only taxpayers' money. They think it's their money. Johnson. And you can't do it without addressing military spending. You can't do it without addressing the entitlements, Medicaid and Medicare, Social Security. Weld. But we're not just saying this. We did it. My first year in office, we cut spending in real dollars. Gillespie. What did you cut? Weld. I cut everything. What you have to do is zero-base the budget. You assume appropriation is zero when you start the year. That's what helped both of us. Our first job elected in politics was governor, so we didn't know there were sacred cows in the budget. We didn't even know there were cows. And the same thing would be true in Washington. You cannot do the Washington thing of assuming that anything other than a 5% increase is a cut. That's Washington speak, and what the two-party duopoly has gotten us into. Both parties. Gillespie. If you're president and vice president, you're dealing with Obamacare. Do you repeal Obamacare? What happens? Johnson. We're looking to get elected president and vice president, not dictator, not the king. But that said, whatever comes out of Congress is what you ultimately end up supporting or not supporting.